Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this video, I'm going to do a Lavender Violets Dip Kit review and manicure, full manicure using their liquids and everything. So in this video, the set that I bought comes with steps 1, 2, and 3, and it also comes with a brush cleaner. And it came with these 4 really pretty dip powders. I will list the names in the description of the video, and I'll link the set that I personally bought. But they're really pretty colors. So what I'm going to do for this manicure, as of right now on my nails, I already have my nails prepped, and I already put my 3 coats of peel base on, and I use my Sparkle & Co. peel base. I'll link that in the video as well. But yeah, so all of these products I'm using are from Lavender Violets. So first, look at the powders. They're all really good quality powders. Just to me, there's not a lot of like difference in dip powders from, I have so many brands of dip and all the powders are fairly similar in my opinion. But these ones, they're very pigmented, especially the black. The black is incredibly pigmented, like you'll see. But anyway, I'm going to go in with my base bond, and just like any other base bond, the smell, it's not any stronger than like Sparkle & Co.'s smells. They all smell similar to me, but it's not like super strong. And I like the bottles, I like the brushes, and then I have my orange stick too, because I always go around my cuticles with the orange stick after each dip. But I'm going to start, and I'm just going to use all the colors so you can see what they look like. Okay, so what I noticed about the liquids, they're, like I said, just very easy. They were pretty thin. They're not super thick. And what I love about them is as soon as I started applying it onto my pinky, and for those asking, I start on my first dip, I start about 3/4 of the way down my nail. And that way it doesn't get bulky by my cuticle or flood my cuticle. But what I noticed is these liquids are definitely self-leveling. Like as you paint it on, you can see it like level out and even out. So I really liked that about them. And so I did my first dip into their gray color out of this kit. And it was, like I said, pretty full coverage. I noticed too that the liquids don't take a very long time to dry. Like as I was cleaning my cuticles and stuff, they were still wet, which is nice because then it gives you time to clean around your cuticle. But they dry quick once like you have the powder on, which I really like too. So going in with my second nail, and I'm just doing thin coats, and the liquids are pretty thin. Like I've had to wipe the excess liquid off of the bottle or off the brush into the bottle. So just be cautious when you do it. Watch the brush when you pull it out for any drips that are coming, because it is pretty thin. Really easy to use. And I'm just taking my orange stick and going around my cuticles to make sure I don't get any hard powder set in there and no flooding. But next nail, see, I had to wipe extra off. This next nail, this color is probably one of my favorites. It's like, I really like these specific shades, and I love that they are the ones that come in the kit and they go so well together, and they're muted shades. Like the gray is like a medium to dark gray, and the black is so dark. Like obviously it's black, it's going to be dark, but I mean like really, really pigmented. It'd be really pretty in a matte color. Like it's a really good black. But I love that all of these shades are muted, and they just, I don't know, they just go really well together. So I really like this kit. And they have several others. So you get the same liquids, but you can, you know, there's different like color kits. So I picked the dark colors, but there's several other ones you could do as well. And I've heard, so I saw somebody mention, I don't remember, it was in one of the nail groups on Facebook that I'm in, mentioned Lavender Violet liquids. And I looked up on Amazon, and I believe I got this kit. So 4, I think they're 1/2 ounce dips and the liquids for like 39, almost $40. So it was pretty inexpensive. But as you can see, I just dipped in black. Look how darn pigmented that black is. It's crazy. And yes, it's on my skin right now because I just dipped into the jar, but I didn't really have an issue with it staining my cuticles or my skin. And you'll see that towards the end. I don't know. It was a really good quality black. So I would recommend it. honestly. It was a really easy black to use. And as you can see, I am just doing my thumb. I go about almost all the way to the cuticle, not quite. I leave some space there, and then I just dip it in. And don't ask why I dip twice. I just do just in case, because sometimes I dip once, pull it out, and it still looks wet, so I do a second. But just cleaning up my cuticles, making sure I don't get any powder stuck in them. And then so I have my little brushes, regular makeup brushes that I use for dusting off powder. But I got this scrub brush. You can get them at the dollar store. This one's a little bit bigger than the ones at the dollar store. And I got it in a 4-pack on Amazon. And it also comes with like one with an actual handle, like long handle. And I can also post that in the description too. But it works really well. And then it really, like, as long as you focus on it, but as you can see, no stains from that black at all. But as long as you like focus on the cuticle and kind of, push your skin back a little bit around your cuticle and use this brush, it'll remove any powder that's in that cuticle. So I would highly recommend using these brushes when dusting off the extra powder. But before you go in with it, make sure that your dip powder is dry. And as you could see, as soon as I was done with that black nail, I started scrubbing and it didn't mess it up whatsoever. So just a heads up. This is with one dip. And as you can see on my middle finger, I missed a corner. And if it's like your first time dipping or you're new to dipping, the first dip is never full coverage and it's never perfect. That's why you do 3. It'll hide that like first imperfection type thing. So don't worry about it. And now I'm going in with my second coat. And this one, I go pretty much all the way to the cuticle, maybe leave a tiny, tiny gap, but not really. This one's pretty full coverage. Then I always wipe my brush on a paper towel after I paint on top of powder. So like doing my second and third dips, just me personally, I wipe my base bond brush off on a paper towel. So that way I don't get powder stuck to my brush or powder transferred back into my bottle, because that can cause them to get goopy and stringy. So just FYI. But yeah, so far with these liquids, they're very easy to use. Highly recommend them. And then you'll see after like really why I highly recommend. But even their powders are good quality powders. I didn't have any issues. Mind you, I should have stirred them before I started, or as I was, in the dip process, I should have stirred the powders in the jar, but I didn't. So towards the end, you'll see on my pinky with the gray powder, there is like almost look like a few little white spots. There's not like anything contaminating the powder, but I just feel like I should have mixed it almost. So, but you'll see, I'll show it towards the end of the video. And yeah, just continuing these dips. I love these colors. I believe the one on my ring finger, I don't remember all of them. One of them's called Pinstripe. And I believe the one on my ring finger is called Peppercorn. It's like a, I don't know, mauve-y, grayish, purplish, kind of pinkish, more on the purple side. Really pretty. And I love this middle finger one. It ends up being like a dark purpley, muted purple gray color. It's a really, really pretty color. And I don't know, I have not been to the Lavender Violets website, but on Amazon, I don't know if you can buy individual powders. I'm assuming you can, but I like the kit and I really like the liquids, and I will definitely be buying these liquids again. And I will also keep people posted if they get goopy or, just how they last for a few manicures, because I'll definitely use them again. And I'm sure all liquids and all brand powders are interchangeable, so I'm sure they'll work just fine with any other powders as well. But I will definitely keep people posted on how well they, last over time and whatnot. But this black is so good for those wanting a good black that does not stain. This one is awesome. Also, I really like Sparkle & Co.'s Midnight, which is DP37. That one's a really good one that doesn't stain. Zudi has one called Dark Matter. That one is amazing as well. So just a few suggestions for you. And just a tip as well, when you use the orange stick around your cuticle, especially with like dark colors, try to go in as fast as possible, just to make sure that nothing dries or gets stuck, like especially black, because blacks are so pigmented and some of them like to stain your skin and whatnot, and especially your cuticle area. So just make sure that you go in really fast with that. And then when you scrub it really well. You don't, I don't know. It looks, I'm sure some of you have seen where it makes your manicure almost look messy because it stains the cuticles and stuff. So I would highly recommend getting one of those nail scrubbing brushes. And this is my second dip into the black on my thumbnail. And like I said, the liquids are great. They're self-leveling. So the powders on my nails were really smooth, which is awesome because that means not so much buffing, filing. But here's what 2 dips look like. And then I'm going to go in with my nail scrubber brush again and make sure I get in the cuticle line really well. Remove any extra powder that's in there. And for those wondering, so I don't know why I don't record more manicures that I do myself. Most of the time I do my nails pretty late at night, like at least midnight, possibly later. And it takes a while to do them. So most of the time I just don't think about recording it. I just go in and start doing them. So I'll definitely record more videos. And then my next video that I'm doing is actually doing somebody else's nails with the gel. So you can see how I do gel polish on other people. But yeah, just right here, like paying a lot of attention and spending a lot of time getting into the cuticle line to remove any of the black dip. As you can see, it doesn't stain. I mean, it stained my thumb a little bit, but not really. It's just like it comes off immediately. Like I wash my hands after I do my nails and I have no staining whatsoever. So just make sure you spend a minute scrubbing your cuticles really well to get all that powder out. And the texture of these powders, I mean, they're pretty much the same as any other solid dip powder that you use. They're pretty easy to use. If you don't like dipping straight in, you could just lay your finger flat into it. For solids, I always dip in versus laying them flat. And yeah, they're just pretty great quality. Just make sure you stir them because, like I said, I didn't, and you'll kind of see it on my thumb, or on my pinky, excuse me. It looks like a few little, like, white dots. I don't know if maybe I over buffed it or if it just wasn't mixed well. So I would just suggest mixing them. And that's the third dip of this beautiful gray color. Like I said, I don't remember the names. The names are not that's the downfall. The only complaint whatsoever that I had with this is that the colors of the dips were not listed on the jar. It does not tell you the name of the color on the jar, and there was nothing inside of the package that said what the colors were. It just said it comes with 4 dips, but didn't list the colors. So on Amazon, on the link that I ordered them from, if I scroll down to the description, it lists the 4 color names. So I took a Sharpie and wrote on the bottom of my jars the name of the color. So that's my only complaint, is that the names are not already on the jars. Like they might be if you ordered them straight from the website or what have you, but the kit that I ordered did not have the names on there, but it did say on the actual Amazon page. Just a heads up. But and see how beautiful this color is. It's like almost like a mauvey, purple, muted, grayish color. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's really pretty. And the said liquid here, you can see it kind of self-leveled out, nice and smooth, super easy to use. Love these liquids. My favorite liquids ever are Sparkle & Co.'s liquids. I've never had a bottle luckily go goopy on me, and I've been using their liquids for 2 years. So no issues whatsoever. Highly recommend Sparkle's liquids, but these are like a close runner-up. Like these are probably my second favorite liquids I've ever used. They are fantastic, and like I said, the odor's not bad. And as you see on that middle finger too, how it kind of looked a little white, that nail, it ends up going away once I applied another dip, and after I solidified, that white look went away, but it did not go away on my pinky. Pretty sure it's from not stirring. I don't know. Because the texture of the powders was normal. It didn't feel like grainy or that there was anything contaminating it. Didn't feel chunky, nothing. So just make sure you stir them. But the powders, like I said, they're really good, really pigmented, really pretty colors. Then top off my extra, go in again with my cuticle stick. And yes, I do after every single dip on every single nail, I go around that cuticle. That's how I'm able to get so close to my cuticle without flooding them and without getting powder on my skin and powder in my cuticle. I get really nice smile lines, especially when they grow out. You can see how rounded they are. And I swear it's from the orange stick. If you don't have an orange stick, you can use like a toothpick or whatnot. But orange sticks are really, really cheap. You can get big packs of them on Amazon. You can get them at Sally's, pretty much anywhere that you can get other nail supplies. Now my third coat of base bond on my black, making sure to wipe your brush off, especially after using black or glitters, or you could have two sets of liquids, one for glitters, one for solids. If you wipe your brush off, you shouldn't have to worry about it, but that'll help your base bond from getting stringy or goopy or anything like that. Just make sure you wipe your brush. And then my last coat, or my last dip on my thumbnail, as you can see, like physically see that the liquids are self-leveling. Like I didn't even paint that part of my thumb yet, and it was already covered in base. So just get down to my cuticle, make sure I get a nice full coat, wipe my brush off, put it away, and I am done with my base bond. And then do my last dip in black. And I'm going to go around my cuticle again to make sure that I get all that powder out of there, that I get nice, even cuticle lines. Now I'm going to take my scrubber and just make sure I get all that extra powder off. Make sure it gets out of your cuticle. I will link the package to these specific scrubbers that I have, but you can get them in like a manicure set at the dollar store. Pretty much anywhere I think you can get these kind of brushes, but they work really well for removing that powder. So highly recommend getting one. Just make sure to spend a little extra time buffing or scrubbing off, I should say, the black powder off of your skin and cuticle. But like I said, this black powder, it's really pigmented and it didn't stain. Like it looks like it did on my thumb a little bit while I'm buffing off the powder, but it really didn't. It was a really good black, and I would definitely use it again. Okay, and now that that is done, I'm going to go in with my step 2, which is activator. And this one, it just smells like any normal activator, but I like it because I feel like the brush picks up a lot of product, which is really cool. And then I'm going to saturate it like the instructions I read to make sure that the directions were pretty much the same as all the other dip liquids, and they are. It doesn't give a specific time to wait between activator and buffing, or a specific time between activator and top coat. It just says to make sure it completely air dries. So I just kind of did my typical, apply it, wait 30 seconds to a minute for it to dry before buffing. But there we have it. And also with the base bond, something that I noticed, that it fans, the brush fans out really, really, really nicely. Really easy to fan. It was a great quality brush. Like I absolutely love their base bond. But now I'm just going to go in. So I always, with me personally, I do not like any kind of bump or raised area by my cuticle. So I feel like I might even over buff my cuticle line too much, but I just, like I said, don't like any kind of raised, like almost like the apex. It almost looks like it's farther down sometimes to me on my cuticle, so I make sure that I buff it really well. And 100 grit file is my typical one. It is really coarse, so it removes product really easily. Because they are coarse, just be careful not to like nick your cuticle with it. but I use this to remove that bump or any lifted, raised areas. And then I'll go in with my 240 grit file, and that's one of my favorite files. It's what I use for shaping. It's a very fine grit file. And I use it for the shaping, like I said, and making sure that the tip is straight across, all sorts of stuff. And then I also go around my cuticle with it too. And then I'm going to, you kind of see how I file the square shape. I look at it all different angles just to make sure that I get it as straight and even as possible. And then, of course, I go in with a buffer block too. But I either use the edge of the table or the buffer block, and I push my nail right up against it to my fingertip. And then it's just a really nice guide to make sure that you're square, if you're doing square, that the top is completely straight. Just a little trick. Typically, I do it on the edge of the table, but you wouldn't have been able to see it that well in the video. So I'm using the buffer block just so you can see it better. And I'm going in, filing any little imperfections that I see. And then I'm going to hit the whole entire thing with my buffer block just to make sure that it's nice and smooth as possible. No rough patches, nothing like that. And these specific buffer blocks, if you're interested, I also get on Amazon. I believe it's like a 10 or 12 pack, if I remember correctly. And I believe they're about $7, $8. So, and on Prime. But these are the same buffer blocks I've been using for a few years now. And yeah, I go through them fairly quickly. I mean, one every probably couple months, but they're decent buffer blocks for the price. Then I'm going to go in on my second nail, and I'm going to go around my cuticles again with my 240 grit file just to make sure my shape's good. And I always, if you feel like when you do a square nail, if you feel like it's too sharp, instead of rounding out the corners, go under the tip of the nail with the file on the bottom side. And same thing, putting it right up to where my skin's touching the buffer block to try to get my square tip as straight as possible. And then I'm going to buff it out and then go in around my cuticle line with my 100 grit file. And you'll kind of see the angle I hold it. I tried to show you. You can kind of see where it's a little raised by my cuticle, and I just don't like that. So I try to make it smooth. But so far, I really, really enjoy this kit. As you can see, there's a little tiny bump by my cuticle. I'm just going to make sure that's not there. But the powders are great. As I'm buffing, I haven't tried any of their glitters, so I might need to order a couple to test them out. But yeah, they're good quality. I don't have any complaints about it except for the name not being on the jars. I'm just feeling it to make sure there's no bumps or imperfections that I notice. And then I come down on the sides too, because I notice sometimes when I dip, if I look straight down the center of my nail, that one side might be, slightly higher than the other, or more powder on one side versus the other. So I just go through and try to make it as even as possible all the way around, keeping that little bit of a C curve. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing with my buffer. And the 240 grit just to make sure my shape is good and that I get that nice even square look. And then buff it as smooth as possible, especially because when you go to put it on your top coat, you don't want any little imperfection is going to show. So just buff it so it's smooth to the touch. So as I was buffing, I didn't notice that it took away any pigment while I was buffing, but I did notice on my middle finger towards the tip, I did buff it a little bit too much, so it's, it was a little faded looking towards the very tip of the nail, but not bad. That was just my own fault, nothing against the powders. But just buffing it nice and smooth. And I'm sorry for any silence that there might be during the video. I know that's a little boring when it's silent. But let's be honest, there's only so much you can say about buffing. So, yeah, if it gets quiet, that's why. But that extra tip I had, you're doing square nails or any that need a really flat, even edge, hold it up against the edge of a table. The table, I've scratched my table with my file, so be careful if you use a table, but anything with a straight edge, just push your finger up against it and it'll help get a really perfectly straight, even tip across your nail, which is awesome, especially if you're trying to do that. So, yep, and I might have little, and almost, I don't even know how to explain it, where it looks like little pieces towards the corners of my nails. That's not hair or dust or powder or anything like that. Some of it looks like peel base. And once you hit it with your file or your buffer block, it comes right off. But people that use peel base, I use it every time I do a manicure on myself because I don't like soaking off if I don't absolutely have to. So I do soak my nails because I put a base of clear over my nails every time I do a manicure. And my clear base, I file off after, I pop my nails off with the peel base. The clear, some spots I'll get lifting, so I file off any lifting I may have. And then I always do like a fill of the clear or just one more dip of clear. And so every couple months or so, probably 3 months, I will soak off one time. And it takes me 10 minutes for both hands because it's just the clear that's soaking off. And doing it that way, like for example, I cut my nails off like really, really short because I wanted to start fresh so they grew out evenly. And when I did that, I put tips on because I don't like having super, super short nails. So I put tips on them. And those tips, I know a lot of people that when they soak off, they have to redo their tips every single time they do their nails. Well, nobody wants to go through tips that often. And doing the peel base, I have the same tips on for 3 months, until I decide to soak off. So it definitely saves you that way. Peel base works differently for everybody. I personally use Sparkle & Co. Peel base. Some people prefer the UNT brand peel base that you can get on Amazon. I've never tried that, so I can't honestly give you an honest opinion or review or comparison of the two. Some brands just work better for other people. So me personally, Sparkle & Co.'s is the only one I've tried so far, and I have zero complaints, and it works awesome for me. So that's the only reason I haven't tried the other brand. I just haven't had a need to. So, not saying one's better than the other. I can't give you an honest comparison of the two. But Sparkles is great, and it's only $10, which is cheap, and it's latex free, which is amazing. And a lot of people didn't know, but the peel base is actually intended to go on your skin, like around your finger and cuticle line, to prevent it from getting like polish or product on your skin. The peel base, you put it on, it goes on like a pinkish purple color, and when it's dry, it dries clear. So that they actually offer one that has like confetti pieces in it. So this is kind of fun, and I wouldn't do it if you're putting it on your nail, but around your skin, and it just goes around your skin to protect it. And then once you're done with your designs, you just grab the corner and you peel it off your skin. So it's less cleanup and all that. And then we discovered that you can put it on your nails under your manicure. So when you're ready, if you change your manis often or weekly or however often you change them, you just push something between the dip and the clear, and the color will pop right off with no damage. So me personally, what works for me, since I always do a clear base on my nails, I don't know how many coats I would do on my natural nails. Like one time I've done it on natural, and I did, I believe, 2 full coats, and I had nails popping off in 2 days. But doing it with the clear base, I do 3 full coats, and they can last me up to 3 weeks. I just typically pop them off whenever I want. One time I did my 3 coats, I did my nails, I hated them and immediately popped them off, no damage. So I do 3 full coats. Personally, I have several videos on my channel showing how I do my peel base. Anybody that's interested. But there we go. And like I said, I will link everything in the description below. Sparkle and Co's. I have a thing where you can type in my name as a referral on your first purchase to receive a credit and whatnot. All that info will be down below. This video is about lavender violets, so we'll just keep going with that. Anyway, buffing my thumb. Does anybody have, okay, this might sound weird. Does anybody else have a favorite nail of theirs? For whatever reason, my favorite nail that I do is always my left thumb. I don't know why. Maybe because it's bigger. I have like fairly skinny nail beds and I hate it. I like people that have wide nail beds. I don't know why I like wider nail beds. Maybe that's why, because my thumb is my widest nail bed. Maybe that's why I like it. But for whatever reason, it always turns out good. It's always my favorite nail. But anyway, just buffing, filing. The black I noticed, it might just because maybe my coats were thinner of my base bond on my thumbs, but I had barely any buffing on my thumbnail whatsoever. It's just really smooth. Really nice product. And so on the instructions for, excuse me, for the Liquid Lavenders kit, for the directions for Solidify and stuff, it recommended saturating your nail both times with Solidify. I don't do that because the more Solidify you use, the longer you need to wait before doing top coat. So the Lavender Liquids Solidify brush holds a lot of product, as you can see. One dip, my nail saturated. But I still didn't wait all that long and I didn't have issues. But if you notice you're applying a lot of Solidify, add an extra 30 seconds or so to your wait time before top coat. Just my suggestion. But I'm painting my Solidify on all of my nails. As you can see, what they look like after being filed. My pinky, for whatever reason, has a few little spots. It's not that noticeable unless you're like an inch away from it. So you don't need to worry about people seeing it or not. And then after I only waited, I didn't even wait a minute. I waited literally 30 seconds after Solidify. But here's what they look like so far. See how good they would look matte? Highly recommend these. Need a good dip matte top coat. Sparkle has one also. But here's what they look like so far after Solidify. And I'm going to go in with a clean, dry paper towel. And I'm going to just wipe off every single nail just to make sure I remove any excess activator that's on there. Because I don't want it getting in my top coat. If I still had activator on my nails and it wasn't dry, and I went in with my top coat, my brush is instantly going to get hard. That Solidify is going to harden your top coat, and if it transfers back into the bottle itself from the brush, it's also going to make your top coat hard, and it's going to make it goopy and stringy, and it's going to ruin your liquid. So please make sure you wait 1 to 2 minutes after Solidify or activator before doing top coat and wipe your brush off. As you see, I'm going in with my top coat, my first coat of top coat. Please do it really thin and try to keep it to as few strokes as possible, 2 to 3 strokes, and then wipe your brush on a paper towel. I already wiped my nails off on a paper towel, but just in case any Solidify or activator got onto that brush, wipe it on a clean paper towel just to make sure that it does not transfer into the bottle. And I was honestly kind of surprised when I used these liquids here, because as you can see, I did not wait the typical 1 to 2 minutes that I tell people to wait. I only waited about 30 seconds to a minute before I started going in with my top coat, and my brush didn't harden whatsoever. My brush is perfect. It's applying it really easily, really well, really thin liquid, super easy to use. Just make sure that you take care of your brushes by wiping them off and so you don't contaminate them. But try to keep it just to a few strokes for your first coat. Wipe off your brush, and then you can see they say to wait, let it air dry, and then go in with your second coat. Me, typically, I do all 5 nails, then I immediately go back in. And you can actually see the product like shrink to your nail. And when it looks like it's almost drying, that's when you want to go back in. And my second coat, I always do it a little bit thicker than the first coat. And it just blows my mind how like you can physically paint it on and literally watch your nail self-level. Like you can watch it looks, you know, there might be a few little brush strokes in it. Instantly they go away. So love these liquids, and it's so damn shiny. Like this top coat is so shiny. It's perfect. So I would 100% recommend this kit. Even if you don't want to try out the powders, cool beans, get the liquids. The liquids are amazing. And I've, probably tried 10, if not more, different companies' liquids. And I would say about 10 companies' liquids. Sparkles are my favorite. These are right there on the same level. They're amazing. I might like Sparkles more. I'm partial to Sparkle & Co. Everybody knows it. Love them. Their products speak for themselves. But these liquids are fan-freaking-tastic. So I would highly recommend getting them. And then after you're done with your top coat, you let it dry for 2 minutes and you're done. But look how shiny this is. Like, it's crazy. It is so shiny, and the colors are beautiful. They applied nice. They were easy to work with. That black is so crazy, so good. Black is awesome. You need a good black. Why not try it out? It's really good powder. And it was pretty inexpensive, very good priced. But here is the finished product. And now you've seen me officially do my own nails and not just a little design. But yeah, I didn't even wait a full 2 minutes and they're completely dry. And there you go. So thank you guys for hanging out with me and watching. I know it was a long video. And remember, this brand is called Lavender Violets. If you don't want to test out their powders, which I would recommend, at least do the liquids. They are incredible. And here we go with our finished product picture. This is the next morning. Super shiny, super great. But thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram and leave me some comments. Deuces and Smooches.